Hello and welcome back to Triclaw Gaming and another tea with Triclaw. And you join us under literally our blanket fort because we've had to build one in order to try to dampen out the noise ever so slightly. But we're back with another of our podcasty sort of chats. So we've got me, Fletcher.
I'm Vice.
And I'm here too. I'm Dane.
And we've got a few different points to discuss today, but as per normal, let's get the usual YouTube stuff out of the way. If you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And if you're brand new here, do check out our other videos by all three of us. Not just Jurassic World stuff, but also lots of roguelikes, Pokemon, Slime Rancher, Hades, all the other stuff. And I'm sorry if you can hear gulping, that's Dane drinking tea. We've had to turn the gain up for people who are slightly quieter, let's say.
I'm trying to drink. I have tea, and they've given me tea, and it's a bad idea to make me wait while I have it in my hand.
Anyway, so last video we all asked you what was your favourite Team Fortress 2 character, and we were overwhelmed by absolutely no responses.
Except on our live stream where we asked directly.
Apart from the live stream where we did ask correctly, and we got one or two responses.
Mechagon is the mechanic.
Yes.
City was the pyro.
Yes.
We got a few responses. Everyone seems to be the medic pyro kind of area.
They were all very different.
Yes, for very different reasons.
So we thought we'd go and give what our favourites are. So we'll start with Vice.
What's TF2?
Too fucking soon.
Mine was a hard toss-up because I love the concept of the sniper because I love sniping, but I suck as the sniper. The only class that I can actually play all right is the scout, just because of how fast they go.
Yeah, I fucking hated the scouts.
Wait, are we doing this based on how we can actually play the class? Because I might need to change my answer.
Well, I suppose it depends why your favourite is your favourite. So it doesn't necessarily have to be based on gameplay.
I'm safe.
But seriously, scouts suck. I hate scouts. I'm so sick of being shotgunned to death when I was playing Team Fortress 2.
Fletcher, here's the issue though. Maybe the issue here is that you suck. Wow, someone woke up on the sassy side of bed this morning.
You scrub. Anyway, before I murder Dane, what's your favourite?
Mine is the pyro.
Why?
I may have a penchant for fire, chaos, and everything in between. Also, to him, he's just shooting rainbows at people.
Huh.
The cinematic for the pyro trailer is beautiful.
True.
The pyro land does exist in the game as well.
Yes, I know.
Oh, I like fire.
Incidentally, I hated going up against the pyros because they're stupid flare guns.
Was there a class
did
you
too
didn't
many
hate going up
damage.
against?
No, there wasn't.
No, I hated every class. My favourite is very obviously the medic.
Oh.
It's a toss-up between spy and medic, and I think medic wins just because of his slightly mad Nazi scientist vibe.
We're going to have to bleep that word.
We are, whoops. I didn't consider that, actually.
Bad Fletcher.
Actually, no, you're allowed to say that word.
I don't really use it whenever you're being derogatory or describing something.
I think we can.
Oh well.
I'm a history teacher.
We'll
I'm allowed to use the word Nazi.
We'll find out when this video goes live then.
If they try to censor it, then I shall just say, I'm a history teacher, I'm allowed to use the word. But the spy, there is what the medic is supposed to represent. He is supposed to be a mad, Germanic scientist type.
Good thing that you didn't say the spy, because I know your opinion of...
Who lost his medical license.
Yes.
Spy is funny, if only because he's such a... he's so sassy.
Such a charismatic individual.
He's French.
Or pornography starring your mother will be the second worst thing that happens to you today. I love that line.
You have issues.
But yes, if you're in the comments down below, if you are listening to this, do let us know what your favourite TF2 character is, or whether you agree or disagree with any of ours. And I believe Vice had some questions for today's Tea with Triclaw.
Sure, what's TF2 again? No, I'm just kidding. I've got an interesting question that might be worth thinking about for those at home as well. What is a game you keep coming back to, despite already having played it a lot?
Yeah, now comment section is just going to get filled up with Skyrim, isn't it?
No. I know someone keeps going back to Destiny 2 over and over.
You mean Destiny 1?
No, I mean Destiny 2.
I was making a derogatory joke about the fact that Destiny 2 is basically Destiny 1, that they just relaunched with a new price tag.
Except much better gameplay, story, and every other element.
What story? You mean the story they removed?
You know, I'm just going to stop with you two today.
I mean, my gripe is I'm the person who likes to wait for all the story to be out and then go through all of it. Doesn't really work with Destiny 2 when they removed some of the story.
MMOs have done that all the time as well. Anyway, seeing that you've come up with question advice, you must obviously have an answer yourself.
I have 2. It's up to you two which one we talk about mostly. But
You're
these
just being
2
greedy.
Yeah, two classes, two games that options. Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to readjust the limelight for Vice here. Just shine it directly on him.
Why are you taking me?
Don't do that. You'll set him on light. Don't you know he's a vampire?
Limelight's fine then. As long as it's not silver, we're fine.
Or lemon light. Anyway,
It just sounds like a type of calorie-free lemonade. Lemon light.
It
man.
is.
That's
Now with
tasty.
90% less lemon.
It's a good thing we got tea here to keep us quenched.
Well, at least you guys can drink it. You
no.
don't get picked up by OBS.
My the 2 that come to my mind are Minecraft
Ooh.
and Guild Wars 2.
So I've never legitimately played Minecraft for any length of time whatsoever.
How come?
I think that's a noise that we have to clip and put in somewhere.
I just find it very difficult to get into. It's one of those games where if you want to make something absolutely amazing, you have to spend legitimate hours and hours and hours and hours working on it.
Says the person who has racked up hundreds of hours on a certain Jurassic World Evolution 2 game.
Actually, I'm only up to 79 on number 2. Number 1, I've got a lot of hours in.
May I point out this game only came out 3 months ago?
And Pharaoh's Valley turned out to be absolutely amazing. So putting hours into making something look good is not a problem. It's just with Minecraft it's very difficult because everything is a cube. You can't make circles with cubes.
Well,
Yes, you can.
Well, you can make things that look like circles from a distance out of cubes, but then they have to be very large, and they just look like you've turned your anti-aliasing off.
That's how my eyes work 24/7.
Yes, but your demented eyesight apart, I've legitimately never given Minecraft much of a go. Guild Wars 2 I did give a go, didn't I?
Yes, you played it for the total sum of 3 hours.
It was a bit more than 3 hours.
No, it really wasn't.
It was.
We got you to level 20-something.
Yeah, which takes more than 3 hours.
in Guild Wars 2, well, I think people can...
You can get to max level in 24. 23 is the record so far.
That sounds really long for max level in Guild Wars 2.
It's the grind from 40 to 50, which makes it that long.
All the levels use the same percentage.
Because of the level of the area, there's less experience grinding areas, so it artificially feels longer.
Okay. See, I think something that I was going to bring up with Minecraft is it's a hard thing to get into when it's so sandboxy. There's not like a proper bunch of objectives unless you've planned prior. Unless you have certain mod packs, which are the thing, in my opinion, that increases the replayability, where some mod packs give you quest books to follow.
I know someone's been doing like a Jurassic Park mod for it, which looks quite cool.
That came out a long while ago, though, did it not? Unless they made a new one.
I think it was being done as a new one, because it was being based on like Jurassic World Evolution. So.
Ah,
It
okay.
might have something to do with the Canvas update that came out recently, because it increased the world limit.
That would make sense.
Game I keep coming back to, even though I've played it so much, which isn't Skyrim. Probably Subnautica is probably going to count on there.
Man, is that not just because you like the underwater features?
I think it's a beautiful game. I think I can legitimately enjoy just spending hours making my own Fortress Ocelot Alpha, to quote Zeropunk, or annoy the Leviathans, or just go swimming around. It's a very relaxed, as long as you don't have
Thalassophobia.
Yes, looking at no one in particular. Vice!
You can't look anywhere, you've got a mattress on your head.
Yeah, it's a relaxing game if you stick to the shallows and build your aquariums and your submarines.
I have a feeling that, both of you are looking at me very expectantly for my answer.
Yes.
You know my glutton for punishment.
Dark Souls?
Surprisingly not.
No.
I play roguelikes for fun, remember?
Gungeon?
Literally any roguelike or MMO which has either a lot of grinding or a lot of difficulty curve.
Yeah, but the question is, you need to name a game you keep coming back to.
I can't, because I come back to a lot of them. My really only reason for playing a lot of games is friends.
I think Enter the Gungeon is probably the one I see you go back to the most.
I would argue Gunfire Reborn.
Going back to it insinuates that I haven't even finished that game. In fact, the new update which came out means that there's more stuff for me to do.
It's a game that you just keep playing that you haven't left yet to go back to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Be like Genshin.
Hades. Genshin Impact is a weird one, but yeah, kind of, I guess. Again, Guild Wars 2, the accursed grind for Ascended Armor, or Legendary Armor. Oh my lord. Did I do my crafting today? Yes, I did. The mind of someone who's trying to make armor. One from a different category. Can't think of it right now. I was trying to think of one that was... Oh yeah, that's what it is. Faster Than Light.
Oh.
Talking about RNG on a platter.
Actually, I've just thought probably Subnautica is probably not mine. It's probably the Wolfensteins. The new Wolfensteins. Old Blood, New Order, and... Well, actually, Old Blood and New Order, really. I do go back to... I play them through at least once a year, maybe twice a year, because they're just very good shooting games. If I feel in the mood to kill some Germanics of a particular political variety, I resort to playing Wolfenstein. And I would suggest them to anyone who actually hasn't played them before. They're good games. Decent shooter games that actually make you sort of nostalgic for the days of shooter games in the past. They actually have map screens. When was the last time you had a map screen in a shooter game?
What do you mean by map screen?
Where you could bring up a map and it would show you where you were.
You can't say this to me. I've played Hollow Knight 2 recently.
Okay, in a first-person shooter though.
I don't play those.
Because a lot of shooters these days, it's just a straight linear corridor, so you don't need a map. But because Wolfenstein comes from an era of gaming where there were lots of branching paths, usually for collectibles and stuff, they incorporated map screens.
That is quite nice. I haven't played many... My mind's gone blank on first-person shooters. The last one I played was probably the...
Gunfire Reborn?
Actually, probably one of the Halos.
Oh yeah, because we played Halo over Christmas. We did things as a house, yes. I just thought of another game for me. Monster Hunter World.
True.
I have 600 and something hours in that game.
So from games we keep coming back to, I think there was another topic we were going to discuss today, wasn't there?
I think this will be an interesting one. A bit of a divide. And I'm actually curious to see, do say in the comments which you prefer, and if there's a reason, feel free to state it, but I'm quite curious if there's like specifically one side or the other. But that is, when you play certain games, do you prefer them to be open world or linear?
And so the debate between linear gaming or open world gaming. I think Dane can open up with this conversation. Which do you prefer?
As a surprise to absolutely no one, I am on the fence.
Which is interesting because I feel like me and Fletcher are going to be two polar opposites in this.
Oh, I know. Which is why I'm going to do something hilarious and point out the flaws and benefits of both of them.
That's a good way to start.
Yes, I'm doing it now. With linear things, it gives you more of a sense of direction, which is what Fletcher hates about Minecraft without mods. But people feel like they're too railroaded and too stuck in a certain way of going, like they're expected to play a certain way. While with open worlds, they have the freedom to do whatever, but having all the freedom in the world to do absolutely anything is too much for some people, and they just like break down and go, I don't know what to do. Give me some form of direction.
Of course, the problem is that even with an open world game, a player will tend to gravitate towards one thing. I've started new characters in Skyrim I don't know how many times, but I inevitably always end up picking Margonian or the mod race Lycaios. I inevitably always end up using a one-handed weapon and magic or a bow, and I inevitably always end up doing the same thing throughout the whole game.
Well, here's the thing about that. You've crafted that preference for playing Skyrim so much. Because you've made those preferences, you're stuck with that.
Yes, but I do the same on Fallout 4 as well.
Again, how often do you play with Fallout? You know how the system works, you know how you like to play some things.
The problem with open world games is that I think you tend to fall into the gameplay you most prefer. And as a result, you just end up... It becomes a bit linear as a result.
Well, like I was saying, the issue is people have too much freedom where they can't actually think about all the opportunities and they just go to what they're most comfortable with.
I also think it is difficult for me because in the past 10 years, I've played what I legitimately think is some of the best linear gaming, as in Wolfenstein, and some of the best open world gaming, as in Subnautica.
What about you, Vice?
I actually find it interesting because I thought Fletcher was going to go down a deeper open world is better route.
I'm not sure, because I think the problem is there are the current open world games where you explore a landscape to climb a tower in order to unlock more of the map, to then go and do the same thing over and over again until the game tells you you've done enough of that, you can now go and kill the final boss.
Hey, something like Breath of the Wild.
Like every single Far Cry game ever. Well, since number 2. Or you have the pre-2015, pre-2012 open world games like Skyrim and Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, where they had a bit more focus on exploration and interesting storylining.
Effectively throw you in an ocean and see how it goes.
All that, yeah.
So I'll give a small point on open world, and then I'll talk about linear a bit, because that's my jam. For open world, the thing I struggle with most, and this will come into linear as well, is my favourite aspect of playing a game is the character development and story. And using Skyrim as an example, a pretty big open world game, big as in, like, it's everywhere, and it's been, like, brought out 10 times by this point. I found the core story to be quite not so strong and also very short, because it focuses more on open world exploration and side quests, I find. It's okay, but in my opinion, I didn't find it as strong as, say, linear JRPGs, where it's in your face, the story, the characters, the development that you witness as you go along. And I've always preferred that, because it's like, I don't want to say it's like watching a movie, because there are some games where it is like watching a movie with just a couple of inputs, but it's like getting to understand characters and see things clearer without having to constantly try to remember what it was you did before, or getting distracted by 20-odd side quests to rescue someone's goat you sold off when you got drunk once or something.
What do you mean I have to go to the castle and talk to the king? I have muffins to sell!
Or while playing Fable, it's like, I'll deal with the trauma of these horrible things coming and invading us after I spend a few more hours doing fart noises at people to try to make them like me.
Well, I have an idea of talking about a game which kind of blows both your arguments out of the water, because it has a very strong story and very good character development, but is completely open world and anything can happen. Dungeons and Dragons.
But that's not a computer game.
Doesn't need to be. You just said a game.
There's a lot of video games that are Dungeons and Dragons, and they, in fact, the one that comes to my mind is the latest one, which is quite linear, and also doesn't really have the most character development. It was kind of poorly received.
To be honest, you never said video game specifically. You just said game.
This is a video game channel, though.
We talk about other things.
I think the problem with open world games, with a lot of them, is that they are very poorly written. Even Skyrim in itself is very poorly written. Like, you're the Dragonborn. You can suck the soul out of a dragon like you're slurping up a milkshake, and yet at no point in the entirety of Skyrim is there a quest line for you to go and basically become the Jarl of one of these settlements. You can't go up to Jarl Balgraf, Fu-Ray-Dar him to pieces, and become the Jarl of Whiterun.
Excuse me, what did you just say?
Fu-Ray-Dar him to pieces. Jarl Bal...
Want to try that again?
Balgraf.
Fusrodar?
Fusrodar, Fu-Rodar. The point is...
The point is, you don't know the name of the first shout.
The point is, open world games kind of live or die on their writing and their exploration.
Have you played Zelda Breath of the Wild?
I like the look of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
You've never played it though, have you?
No, because I have never played a Zelda game in my life.
It is also a completely open world game, which technically has a lot of story in it and a lot of depth, which is very good, especially with the Champion's Ballad DLC. Gives you a lot of information and a lot of world building. It's actually really good.
I think Far Cry 2 was where open world games started going wrong. Because Far Cry 2 is literally, you do all the missions for one faction, every single checkpoint you encounter you have to kill before you can continue. Then after you've done all the missions for one faction, you go and join another faction because you're told to, and then you do the whole thing again. And then, at the midpoint of the game, you move to the south part of the continent, where you do the whole thing over again. with both factions. It's legitimately all the worst excesses of modern day Ubisoft, mostly open world games.
What would be the perfect open world game?
For us personally?
Yeah.
See, that's a difficult question because
To be fair, Fletcher, for someone who complains about how they are written so badly, you should have an idea of what you'd want.
I'd want an open world game with a legitimately interesting story, which actually required you to do more than just kind of be there in the background.
So basically not like an Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark situation.
Again, take Skyrim as an example. At one point, you have to arrange a meeting between all the Jarls and the Greybeards and the Stormcloaks and the Imperials, and you have to pick and they basically, in order to work together, you have to come up with a compromise solution. But it's a compromise solution that's based on what the Greybeard gives you. There's no opportunity to give your own compromise solution. And even after you give the compromise solution that you think works the best, it doesn't really alter the future in any way. It just alters which fat, flatulent bastard is sat on the throne in each city. So I think a good open world game needs to have a story which actually makes you feel like you're a relevant part of it. Like Fallout New Vegas, none of the events of Fallout New Vegas would happen without you picking a side. And you can't continue the Fallout New Vegas story past a certain point until you pick a side.
For an open world game, for me, if I wanted an open world game that would fit my preferences, I partly agree with what Fletcher wants, something where you are important and integral to the plot, but also I would quite like to see the development of multiple characters and a main story that features a lot more than just one quest. I feel like the main quest should be at least a fifth of the whole game. Comparing that to Skyrim, the main quest feels like it's about 3%, considering it feels like there's more time spent getting all the Jarls together than the quest to fight
Alduin?
Yeah, for some reason another dragon's name came to mind.
Paarthurnax?
Yeah.
The Skyrim nerds over here.
Also, anyone who did kill Paarthurnax for the blades, you're a terrible person and you should be going to hell for that.
Also, my contact's in the description. I might need you for a job.
I don't understand why you would kill Paarthurnax just to become a blade, because the stuff you get for being a blade is crap.
Why would you know without doing it?
Because I've read it online. I have the strategy guide. I know what you get.
Nevertheless, the thing that I would think would be amazing is if an open world game, a game where, when you think open world, you usually think choice. You think sandboxy in the sense that you can do things in any order you want. And I would like it if, say, there were these other characters who could join you on this big quest line. Similar to, like, linear JRPGs, but how you get them could be different due to your actions and what you as a character do, and how they interact with the story is also different based on where you go and what you do. It sounds like a lot of stuff to develop and code in, like all these different what-ifs, but if we can talk about what would be our perfect open world game, then I can dream.
We need to have good companions as well.
Exactly.
We really need good companions. Like, that was something else Skyrim failed at. All of the companions were just rubbish. Yeah, and it took a modded-in companion to be good. Whereas if you look at Mass Effect's companions, Garrison Rex and Liara especially, they were good companion characters in their own right.
But what about Thane? He's a good boy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the original Mass Effect.
Aww.
I heard a good argument about Liara, about her not being a good character, actually.
Oh?
However, it would be a spoiler alert.
Didn't the original Mass Effect come out, like, when
Yeah.
I was a child?
True, but they have remastered it recently, and so that
I
people
don't-
probably haven't
Oh,
played
seriously? The remastered Mass Effect? Gee.
it yet. I'll put a spoiler alert, but I'll say. So, spoiler alert.
Jump to this time mark if you don't want to hear.
There won't be a time mark. Just skip ahead about a minute.
Yeah. The character Liara, if I recall correctly, cannot properly die and be lost to time. In the first game, there's no way that, like, anything you do can cause her to die. In the second game, even in the DLC, she can't die. And in the third game, if you get the worst ending, it's still her whose voice and vision is shown at the very end in the new timeline. And I thought it was an interesting argument because it's like her fate was sealed from the very beginning and you can't really change that.
I mean, fate is a writing tool which does often make things interesting.
Yeah, but then you could say that about a lot of games which have
This is my story or something like that.
characters that can't die.
Of course you can.
I mean, there's a story I played recently, which is similar to, I can't say its name because some people will get very interested. Fletcher knows which one I'm talking about,
No, I don't.
which I played, which the narrator of the entire game was one of the characters you were playing. And it's not so much you get to go do this, but it's this has happened. Regardless of what you do, it will always end out the same way.
Something else that makes it a good open world game is having good places to go.
True. I feel like that's the biggest aspect of open world, that the places, because people want you to explore. So I feel like everywhere needs to be very unique.
I think Fallout 4 suffered from a lot of the places you go being very copy-paste, and Skyrim had quite a big element of that, although Skyrim did have some really good, unique locations as well, like each of the main cities, for example, were all radically different.
I do remember that, yeah. There's a lot of interesting places, or towns at least.
So Subnautica has the very different biomes with very different creatures in each one, so even in that game, it makes you feel like you're going to new and interesting places. Oddly enough, I don't think I like Subnautica Below Zero as much as I do the normal one.
Told you wouldn't.
What would you do for... What would you want for a linear game to be better than?
Well, a linear game lives and dies on its story alone. Because if a linear game has a really pant story, you're not going to want to complete the game. Because all a linear game is it's essentially, like you say, a movie. A linear game is primarily a storytelling, narrative-driven experience.
I'd say
Roguelikes break that quite a bit.
I'd say that
But
linear games...
I wouldn't classify roguelikes as linear games.
I'd say that linear games can have open stories. Like, Mass Effect 2, I'd say, is quite linear.
It's an open world.
I don't believe there's much openness to it. Unlike the first game where you
Well,
could
there's-
explore planets.
Yeah, second one, there are lots of other planets and side missions and stuff that you can do in the galaxy.
And you can just be a space miner.
Yeah.
Which one's the one that you can't do that then? Is that 3?
I think so.
No, in 3 you can still... 3
They got rid of the probes in
3 got rid of some of the elements of open world, but there was still lots of side quests and stuff for you to do.
Side quest doesn't make it open world though.
True. It's just... Because there's games which are linear, but you can move outside of that corridor, but you're still going down this corridor. It's just a bit wavy and wiggly.
I've got a question, Fletcher. I almost called you question there. Why do you not consider roguelikes linear?
Because by their inherent nature, roguelikes are non-linear. Because every time you play a roguelike, they will be subtly different each time.
Just the pathing, yeah, but it's still the exact same thing over and over again. Get from this room to this room, do this, continue.
Well, then I suppose the question is, what do you classify as linearity in a game? I classify linearity as there will never be any difference to this general experience, regardless of how many times you play it.
I view it as there's only one acceptable way to get from A to B. A being the start of the game, B being the end.
Yeah, but you could argue that something like Enter the Gungeon is not linear then, because you have the option to go to the shop and buy different...
But that doesn't change the story.
Yeah, but
You start in the same place, you end in the same place.
linearity is not necessarily determined by story. But I would say a good linear game has to have a good story.
You seem to be having the issue of there is very little to no story at Enter the Gungeon.
Exactly. So it's not linear.
But-
But it's not linear because of its gameplay. It's not...
I was trying to figure out where the line lies.
Because I would consider something like FTL or Enter the Gungeon linear.
They are linear in as much as you know what the end goal or you know what the ending is, essentially. But you could say that about any even open world non-linear games are linear in as much as you know what the end is going to be.
Well, no, I mean,
The end of Skyrim is you've killed Alduin and you pick a side for the Civil War.
what I mean so much as such is, like, there is no option to do anything else in those games. You have one objective. That one objective is what you go to.
Yes, but the process of how you complete that objective alters run to run.
Going in that sense, you could call pretty much any game which gives you multiple weapons an open world game.
I would say for Enter the Gungeon it's a bit more than that, because you're never 100% sure on the weapons you're going to get, you're never 100% sure on the spawns you're going to get, you're never 100% sure on what the rooms are going to be, you're never 100% sure what the shop's going to offer, you're never 100% sure...
But that doesn't make it open world.
No, but it makes it non-linear.
Yeah, but the conversation wasn't, is it linear, is it non-linear? It was, is it linear or is it open world?
I think my thought on it is possibly quite similar to Dane's, and that's the objective. Because I imagine things like certain JRPGs, or the focus on the objective might be the best way to say it. Certain JRPGs, for example, there's a very big focus on, we need to stop this main bad guy, and there's very little other objectives that you get. Maybe you get a side quest here and there, but it's not like that focused on that. Whereas there are some games where you need to stop the bad guy, but you can also try and figure out where you sold this person's goat off to when you got drunk that one time.
See, Enter the Gungeon, the bad guy changes.
No, they don't actually.
Well, yes, they do.
Final bad guy's still the same.
Okay, but the bosses of each floor are randomized.
See, in Enter the Gungeon, I would say the objective is, I need to get to the...
Kill your past. That's the objective of Enter the Gungeon.
Is Enter the Gungeon the one where you're going down to get to the treasure, or is that the other one?
Yes, Enter the Gungeon is going down, Exit the Gungeon is going up.
So it's like the objective there is get to the loot, get to the
Okay.
treasure.
Enter the Gungeon, your objective is to find this mystical gun which allows you to kill your past which you regret.
Okay.
Exit the Gungeon, you've done that, but because you've done that, the entire Gungeon's now collapsing around you and it's unstable.
So I would argue linear mostly. I guess things come to potential spectrums, but...
Yeah, it's now a case of, does randomness make a game non-linear?
Oh, that's a good question. Does randomness make a game non-linear? We can leave that one for the comments, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. So if you like linear versus open world, feel free to say. And what's your opinion on what, does randomness change? How much does it change linear to an open world game?
I mean, here's another one for Fletcher, even. Gunfire Reborn is a game I've been playing a lot of recently. First-person shooter, basically go through the exact same thing every time, it just has randomized elements to it.
It's an MMORPG, isn't it?
No, it's a roguelike, first-person shooter, with multiplayer aspects.
Then it's non...
But you literally can only go one way through every corridor. All the rooms are preset. There is no unique structure.
But that's different to Gungeon. The rooms are not preset.
All the room shapes are preset in Gungeon. They just took out a lot of stress in their engine by just saying, we're going to make all the maps have a certain number of rooms in them, but the pathing for each of these maps will be different. And you could start at the end sometimes. There's set parts where portals can spawn for you to leave or to enter. It just chooses which way to go randomly.
I feel this conversation is going to go on a long time after this particular chat. I have a question for you two.
I wanted to bring something up real quick.
Hmm?
Do you think this game is linear or open world?
This is going to cause a fight. Go on.
Pong.
Pong?
Pong.
There's so many ways you can beat the person.
Yep.
Pong is a sports game. It can be it's neither linear nor open world.
I would say that
Sports games cannot be...
Its gameplay is rather linear.
I was not expecting a proper discussion from this.
Too bad. You've got yourself into this now.
Sports games cannot be linear or open world. They're just sports.
I disagree with you. Any game can be linear or open world. It's just most tend to be linear because that's the precedent for the game. Take, for example, FIFA. If you were given the option to say, well, solve this, I want to go become a fish farmer.
You can't.
Exactly. You're stuck in the fact that you have to play FIFA.
I think Pong's very linear. There's 2 lines and then a circle.
It's not a circle, it's a square. It's a single pixel, I think.
Yep. Well, no, it's not a single pixel, but,
That's just a very small line.
Anyway, I have a question for you two. Over Christmas time, us at the Triclaw household decided to play some Halo. And we played Halo 3, the best of the Halo games, and let the comment section catch fire if it isn't true.
Baby.
Now, my question is, we haven't played a first-person shooter on, a fairly old, as well as it is now, first-person shooter for some time. So, was there anything about Halo 3 that surprised you, or that you had missed, or you had forgotten was so utterly awful? Was there anything quality of life that you really miss from modern games that Halo 3 perhaps didn't have?
I mean, awkwardly, 2 weeks earlier, I was playing through Halo 1, so...
Oh, well, you've just completely ruined the premise of my question.
It could still work, because Halo 1 is also fairly old, so...
Okay, well...
I can make one comment.
Go for it.
There is no evade or dodge key, is there?
No.
Yeah. That's the only issue I have. But it's all about positioning and making sure you don't get shot in the first place. I'm more used to fast-paced games with a dodge option, is all.
A lot of first-person shooters don't have a dodge option, though.
I know. In fact, Gunfire doesn't have one.
I tell you what really shocked me was just how sluggish movement is.
That's true. The
Yeah.
later Halos do have a sprint system.
I'm at least used to MMOs not being able to have a sprint.
Even just aiming seemed to take forever.
Yeah, that's also because you're not used to console gaming.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but that doesn't really answer the question about quality of life to later first-person shooters.
See-
Unless I could argue, later ones seem to be quite present on PC quite often, so I'm used to mouse and keyboard. But I feel like that's me being pedantic.
Something specific to Halo games. The fact that you drop your sight. If you're aiming with a scope weapon, you drop your scope if you get hit once. It's so bloody annoying.
It's realistic, though.
It is, but it's bloody annoying.
I had this discussion the other day when I played Halo 1, and I had the Mandela effect. I was sure that wasn't the case originally. But no, that's a mechanic that was specifically chosen to be in, if I recall correctly, to try and dismay snipers. If a sniper is aiming at you, one headshot, you're down. So if you can just get a bullet on them, that can delay them.
Yeah, but it's annoying if you're playing through the campaign, say, and you're trying to get a bead on, say, the sniper jackals that we were having troubles with on that dam.
Of which you can fire at, and it doesn't seem like that affects their aim, unlike in multiplayer.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you there, although I don't know if it does or doesn't, but it felt that way. But we were playing on Legendary.
Yes.
And I feel like if you're a sniper, a good sniper wouldn't get shot at in the first place, but I feel like if you are a sniper, you do kind of expect to get shot at while you're trying to get the bead on someone.
Yeah, first-person shooter multiplayer games are weird, because a good sniper hides, tries to not ever get seen, and will try to snipe you.
Like a normal sniper.
If you do that in any first-person shooter, you are called a camper, and that is a bad thing to do.
Well, in a lot of first-person games now, it's almost impossible to be a good sniper, because map design has got to the point now where it doesn't really allow you to do that, because the maps are never big enough for you to find a hiding position to do it.
I found... So the Halo I've been playing is on the Master Chief Collection, so it has like the remastered first one and second one. I gave multiplayer a quick go on that a tad ago, and I did find that some of the maps were quite big, which was quite nice. But this is a remastered version, and therefore I think some of the maps are newer, so it's not a good argument to make versus older ones, I guess.
I mean, the last time I played Call of Duty Online, I was surprised at just how tiny the maps were. And they were very much geared towards bunny hopping, assault rifle and shotgun people.
I think that's why Battlefield had the success it did back in the day.
Not currently, it's not.
Yeah, but originally it had the success because the maps were huge. I remember there being a map where you had to sail from like one area to another area.
I feel like we've talked about that for a while.
Sorry, what?
I don't know. I can't comment much. I'm bad.
Yeah, let's go back to open world versus linear.
No!
I'm actually surprised we were talking so heavily about linear games and not one of us, primarily me, mentioned Half-Life anywhere.
That's because I've never played Half-Life.
What's Half-Life?
You can go to hell. I know you know what Half-Life is.
I may have finally finished the first Half-Life last year. Only took me a while. It took me about half my life.
It is one of the best linear game experiences I've had as well.
I have to agree. I do find most first-person shooters struggle with story. I mean, we brought up Halo. I think that's a good one, a good example of a good one. I remember playing Half-Life, and I was very surprised by... The story isn't in your face, which I do prefer, but you get enough from it to go, this is interesting. And I was quite surprised, especially since it's when did it come out?
Ooh, late 90s.
Yeah, it was...
Originally. When Valve still made games.
I think it certainly shaped the way for a lot of first-person shooters after it. That's probably why it's as well known as it is, to be honest.
It's strange now, because looking back at Half-Life 2 and then obviously episode 1 and then 2.
Which I have actually yet to play.
They
episode
kind
1
of
and
feel
2.
very quaint
So,
compared with other first-person linear shoot-em-up games.
to answer your question about when Half-Life came out, it was 1998.
1998. Although diverting slightly back to Halo for my last question, what do you think is what is your favourite of the Covenant races and why?
The Sankili.
The elites.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I don't know. I have a soft spot for the Ungoi, which are the grunts. And that's just because I'm a big Halo nerd and I have nearly all of the books. And I love how they're represented in those books because I think Yayab is in like the book based on Halo 1 and it's
Isn't there
really
a
interesting.
Ungoi rebellion at some point.
I've not read that in the books yet, if there is, but I know that there was one in the past. But I just like how in the games you never think a second thing about them. You think, oh, they're the funny little things that you shoot, and sometimes their heads explode, and you hear confetti, and yeah. But one of the books gave some amazing character development to one. I think this one was Dadab, and he was a deacon, and you're like, hold on. One of those little baby-looking grunt things that just have no importance whatsoever has some sort of political role, and you sort of learn more about how they are their own race, but they're used so heavily because there's so many of them that they're treated as cannon fodder, and it's interesting seeing that. So if it's not the Sankili, just because I love their design, I love the heritage. Especially the sort of very, what is it, Oriental style? The very sort of Japanese-esque style they had in the past.
And Arbiter.
Yeah.
That's legitimately like one of the biggest reasons to like the elites was it's just Arbiter is such a cool character.
Thel Vadami. Yeah. That's a good character who has like a good amount of development, I feel.
I like the Hunters.
Because they're like many different...
They're colonies of worms in armoured suits.
Yeah, what are they called? Are they
like Lekalo or something like that.
Yeah, because the Scarab, big, huge things...
Yeah, the Scarab is the same thing.
Yeah, they're like Molokgolo or something.
I just like the idea that this is just like a suit of really pissed off worms.
That bit you stepped on in second grade has come back to let you up.
Yeah, or it's the remains of all the worms you've killed in like Armageddon and forts and stuff.
That is a cool thing in Halo that each of the races of the Covenant are quite drastically different, and I like that.
So, what's the Covenant?
They're
the bad guys.
That doesn't help me know what they are.
For those listening, Dane does not know much about the story of Halo and therefore probably cannot answer the question.
I'm currently curled up in a blanket because I'm traumatized and you asked something I can't respond to.
So there's like a guy, and he gets like trained up and injected stuff into, and they call him the Master Chef. And he...
It's so great you guys know really.
He goes on to fight this group called like the Covenant, and they're like, I don't know, some like big massive band of like alien musicians, and all of their like fans try to fight you or something. I think this is the story, right? Something like that. And you're trying to like crash some party or something, and Thel Vadami is like their bouncer or something, but then, something happens and he's like, oh, I'll join you guys now. I don't know, something about some guy who talks about truth, and some guys in floating chairs, and a big brutish guy that they just call the Brute or something. I think he's got like an epic massive guitar, or maybe it's just a hammer.
All I really know about Halo is go murder people, have computer lady talk to you for 10 minutes straight about one specific thing while you're shooting things.
I wonder how many times in the Halo games they actually use the word Halo. That would be a cool drinking game to play, wouldn't it?
Not really.
Just play through Halo.
It really would not.
Play through Halo 1, 2 and 3, taking a drink every time they use the word Halo.
They only talk about when they talk about Halo rings, though, or Halo jumping, which is something very different.
And Halo 1, 2 and 3 are literally all about the Halos.
I think you'd be surprised how little they mention it.
I think they mention it quite a lot, actually. I know there's a few times where they refer to it as the weapon, and I'd be like, oh god, I need to take another drink.
No, what I mean is, like, for a game which his namesake is literally Halo, they don't mention the word Halo all that often, given that fact.
That's probably a good thing for me in this drinking game, considering how Golf with Your Friends came out.
Yeah,
Course
you
one
were
ends.
plastered by
Vice.
the end of the first course.
And you won that!
And then I won the second course.
Yes, and you're even worse.
Through sheer luck.
I call it sheer luck. Oh, excuse me.
And then Fletcher won the third one, and I won the fourth and fifth. I
So-
think we're booze.
We've been going on for about an hour, so I think we can leave this tea with Triclaw here.
Yes.
However, I have come up with what I think our next, what we will open the conversation with next time, and what people in the comments down below can discuss, because I know some of the people that have subscribed have strong feelings about this particular conversational topic.
Oh yes, what's the best biscuit dip in our tea?
Everyone knows that is a chocolate digestive.
A chocolate?
Chocolate digestive. FNAF. The newest game came out a couple of weeks ago, but there does seem to be a lot of some, shall we say, quite...
Game-breaking bugs?
No, some quite... What's the word I'm looking for? People have some quite emotional opinions about FNAF as a franchise. So, I think what we can discuss is, do we dislike or like FNAF as a franchise? And where do we think it may have gone wrong? Or has it gone wrong? Or, just basically have a chat about FNAF and think about what we think about it in general. But yeah, if you have any opinions on FNAF, any of the games, or your own experiences, or whatever, do let us know in the comments. And the next Tea with Triclaw will be out in February, and we'll start with that. Don't forget to keep watching all of our other videos and our live streams. I think I may poke Vice to do some more Slime Rancher at some point, or some Pokemon at some point.
Well, the next episode of Pokemon Uranium, the editing has started, so...
Excellent. More Pokemon band fan game coming up. And I shall give Dane a poke to put something... What have you been playing recently? Monster Sanctuary?
I've only just started playing it, just personally.
I actually want to see this game.
There's two other Pokemon fan games that I have in line after I beat Uranium.
You're kidding.
No.
What are
He's
they?
not.
Pokemon Chernobyl and Pokemon 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
To be honest, those are actually games that probably do exist somewhere. But yeah, if my PC stuff's not gonna banjax it up, I'll happily play Monster Sanctuary for people. Just let me play it on my own a bit first. I need to actually figure out what the hell to do.
And inevitably, there will be more Jurassic World Evolution 2 tips, tricks, hints, and sandbox builds from me. And I'm thinking I might start a Skyrim playthrough.
You can't do that. We're a Jurassic World Evolution channel.
I can do what I want
Just
with our
put
channel.
dinosaurs in Skyrim, and we should be fine. Make a Jurassic World Park in Skyrim.
Yeah, but then I don't want every guard in Whiterun turning around saying, I used to be a park operator like you until I took a Velociraptor to the knee.
Now I'm just imagining somebody swinging a Velociraptor so hard it just it's flailed into their knee.
I mean, let's be
takes them out.
let's be completely honest. If we're making that joke, it'd be a compy.
What have I told you about compies?